Hello and welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Kayla Morgan and I'm joined by solicitor Peter Lynn, journalist Robert Llewelyn-Jones and Tim Pritchard. We're talking sheep, guys. Rams, to be specific.
Well, I thought at least our guest would have come dressed as a Cistercian monk, you know, since they were the great sheep farmers of historically.
And you could have a, what's it, sheep's hook? What do you call this?
Shepherd's crook.
Shepherd's
yes,
crook, yes.
Yeah. Well, I use that at the sale on Monday.
Yes, now we have a sale on Monday in Bilswells, and it's Europe's biggest ram sale, isn't it? So it's a very serious event, and it's a huge economic driver actually in Mid Wales, and I think we have vendors and buyers from
all over the country. And buyers I know come from Europe as well.
Yeah, come from Holland and all over the country, and sometimes America to see what's going on and all the rest of it. So it's a big thing. Why is a ram sale so important to Wales, Tim?
Well, the sheep industry is enormous for Wales, and it's the end of the year where everybody has produced the lambs and the older sheep, and now really is the time to sell them on to new breeders. They're looking for stock rams for their own flock, and there's 5,500 sheep there being sold in 20 different rings at the same time.
The noise is beyond anything you've ever experienced.
You know, so they can buy various different breeds. They can go there for one day and buy 10, 12 sheep if they wish, 3 or 4 different breeds. So it means they can market to everything, you know, and go and find a new stock up for the season.
Now, Tim will be too modest to say he farms near Llandrysant, but quite near the Mint, isn't it?
Yes.
But he's produced a number of great champions in the Royal Welsh Show and other shows, and also you had the highest priced ram at one point, didn't you? Was it 5,000 guineas at this ram sale? Yeah,
that's quite right. That was in 2005. At that time, it was the record price for this particular sale, but it's moved on from
18,000 guineas we had last year.
Yes, last year it got to 18,000.
And I think it's small beer compared to some of the sales up in Scotland. I think in Lanark the other day they had a ram was sold for, wait for it guys, 130,000 guineas. Try telling them that over the beer in the Prince, Robert.
I love to hear stories like this because farming is such an integral part of Wales, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, sheep farming is a historical feature of Wales, and I think it's a wonderful tradition, and I thank God for people like you who still do, you know,
well, yes,
even in Llandrysant.
You take the sheep off the hills of Wales or even off the Kenfig Dunes, and you very quickly have an area that's impenetrable, don't you?
Right.
And certainly doesn't look as pretty.
Well, if there's no sheep on the hills and the mountains, the countryside wouldn't look as well as it does, you know, and it would soon all be grown over and trees and scrub.
But it's a high quality product as well.
Yes,
we're a world leader. Yes. It's one of the things Wales is known for.
Sold all over the world.
I go to London. I've got a friend who lives in Twickenham, and I go up and I take various cuts of Welsh lamb with me, and I've just her friends just say, well, please, can you bring some for me? You know, because they can get it. But it's so expensive, you know, so different.
The flavour and the taste of Welsh lamb is, you know.
Now then, can I ask you, a famous Welsh gardener called Llewelyn-Jones once told me that the meat is different. The North Wales lamb tastes different to the South Wales lamb. Now, is that, and he put it down to the plants that they ate, the way they grazed.
Vegetation does make a difference. Because you've got down here, you've got the salt marsh lamb.
Yes. It's on North Gower.
Yes, where the sheep access the ground, which comes in on the tide, and then it recedes, and then they graze that. So there would be a slightly different flavour to that. But different breeds have a slightly different texture as well. So you do get a variation in the flavour of lamb depending on the location and the breed.
Why have we got so many different? How many different breeds of sheep we've got altogether?
Well, at the Royal Welsh Show, there's normally around 50 different breeds shown. You know, some may have 200 exhibits, some may only have 20, depending on the breed and the popularity. We have a fair few
at the sale, don't we? Different breeds. Why so many different breeds, though?
Well, I suppose going back generations, every locality had its own breed.
You've got Kerry sheep, Beulah sheep, they're all places.
The South Wales Mountain is basically found in the South Wales valleys. That's the home of them, and you won't find them in much outside there. And Llewelyn-Jones are West Wales, but the last 30, 40 years the Continentals have come in.
Which brings us on to the 40th anniversary of the Charolais being brought in. Why were these Continental sheep brought in?
Basically because of the superior fleshing qualities, carcass conformation, ease of lambing, and just getting a lighter framed, less waste on a carcass.
I have to tell you, I haven't seen Gaynor look so animated on this set before, being a sheep farmer herself. I think she's brought you here for her own devices.
Well, I started out as a little tot, you know, feeding pet lambs, as so many children do on farms, and lambing ewes because my hands were smaller than my dad's and that sort of thing. And it's such a very different upbringing from someone in town. I'm not saying it's better or anything, but it is a completely different. You can go to school with other children, and your experience of life and of the world, Tim, is completely different, isn't it? I see my granddaughter now; she's 2, and she's such a different upbringing.
Yeah, it is. It's a way of life. You know, you're brought up with it. You either like it or don't. You know, and as Gaynor said, lambing ewes. Are
you farming the family farm that you lived on?
Yes, my father moved there when I was 3.
Yes,
with the family.
Yes,
and we're still there now. And you know, we used to go out lambing before we went to school.
Yes, of course.
And then quick change and back in and gone to school and back out lambing.
Oh, when you came home from school, you were ready for work.
And then you did your homework after the outside jobs had been done.
Yes, of course.
And Tim comes from a great family of renowned sheep farmers, don't you? You know, so it's
well, we've had a bit of success over the years, and I enjoy it. It's part of my life, and it's what I'm interested in.
What does it take to produce a champion sheep and a highest price sheep?
Breeding is a great help, but you've got to have an eye for an animal. Everybody looks at animals in different ways, and it's just having an eye for a good animal and producing it, feeding it right, preparing it, trimming, presentation. Just like anything else, you get one chance to hit the judge right on the first impression.
Didn't you bring up something, Peter, about you were told on judging the sheep?
Yes, I'm not sure it's for publication, but yes, we have agribusiness is important to us. We have several farming solicitors working for us, and again, agribusiness I think isn't shout out enough about from Wales. We need to shout to the world. I love it. But yes, he's a sheep. He judges sheep at Royal Welsh, etc. And how do you judge a sheep? He's very much like a woman. You pick a pretty one.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's more to it than that.
They normally catch.
You said a bit more as well, which I can't say.
They normally catch your eye as they come in through the gate. Quite often you can pick them before you
Only
actually...
in Wales can you say that you pick a pretty sheep, I think, and get away with it.
It's the same as any championship animal, isn't it? They've often got that sparkle.
Yes, they've got to have that little bit of character and personality.
Yes.
You know.
We can't continue without touching on Brexit. Sheep farmers, I think, are very, very concerned about the implications.
Yeah, they are at the moment, because we don't know where our markets are going to come from. This year, lamb prices have been good until this last couple of weeks. They've dropped.
Because of the pound,
yes, the pound has helped, because since the Brexit vote, the pound has weakened and has helped our exports into Europe. But when we leave Europe now, everybody is concerned as what's going to happen afterwards.
Because tariffs on lamb being sold abroad, and particularly I think we touched on the Welsh mountain sheep and the sheep on the hills and mountains in North Wales. They're light lambs, as we call them, and they go into Greece and Italy and places. A tariff on them is catastrophic for Wales, surely.
Yeah, it could jeopardise their future as to export the lighter lambs.
Aren't we also European receivers of funds in the farming industry in Wales? Aren't we net receivers of subsidy, etc., which no one said how that's going to be replaced for the rural economy? I don't know how that affects lamb farming in particular, but it's millions. It's 220 million pounds a year.
It was suggested this morning on the BBC News that you can only have your subsidies if you have a phone mast on your land.
Yeah, it's been subsidised for a number of years through the European Union. But what happens after that? Our government said we will be...
In the last seconds, what's going to be the highest price at the ram sale on Monday?
Oh, that's a big question. Depends. All you need is 2 people who fancy the same animal with a big pocket.
Are we going to beat 18,000 guineas?
Well, the sales leading up to have this year, we'll just have to wait and see.
Good luck, good luck.
That's a real farmer's answer. But thank you all. Thanks for coming in. After the break, Rachael Hopkins will be here talking to Ruth Madoc and Ray Quinn from the musical stage.
No worries. Care who he's done.
Welcome back. I'm Rachel Hopkins and I'm joined by Ruth Madoc and Ray Quinn from The Wedding Singer, the musical. Hello both, thank you both for coming in because I know you've got a very busy schedule at the moment and Ray, you're not feeling all that well, so...
No, but so good.
Coming in.
No worries.
But of course you're here in Swansea for The Wedding Singer, which is based on the 1998 show and is...
Well, the film.
The film.
1985.
Was it 1985?
Yeah, 80s, yeah, it's all 80s stuff.
All 80s stuff.
And then it was adapted for the show, wasn't it?
That's right. Well, it's actually been written by the guys that wrote the film. So, you know, the music is, most of it is not in the film. There's only 2 songs, isn't there? 2 songs from the film, that are in the show. So the familiarity is there for people who've seen the movie, you know what I mean? But, yeah, it's a great show. I mean, we thoroughly enjoyed it. We've done touring since February. So these are the last few weeks left, and we are here in Swansea. Yeah, well, a little break before panto season starts for me. I don't know about you, Ruth, but... No, I don't do panto anymore. No. I did over 40 of them, and I decided now the grandchildren came first, so so I go to see my grandchildren now. Yeah.
So just give us a little bit of a background on the story of the theatre, The Wedding Singer, for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Well, to start off with, it's a feel-good show, isn't it, Ray?
Yeah.
Just there's no cynicism in it whatsoever. It's about a guy...
That's what we need these days.
Exactly. It just takes you out of yourself, you know. And last night, the audience were wonderful. Very, very responsive, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Ray? They really were.
It's just your typical love triangle story. It's like a guy, you know, chasing his dream, you know, just wants to be in a marriage with a loving wife, and then that all turns out upside down. He finds love with he thinks she's the wrong person. In actual fact, she's the perfect person. Because I play Glenn Goulia, which is like the fiancée to Julia, who Robbie, of course, as the wedding singer, falls in love with. And then they find out towards the end that I'm a bit of a bad boy. I get booze. They fall in love. They get married. And the rest is history. But in between all that, there's some great music, you know, loads of dance routines. It's choreographed by...
Very funny.
It must be fun playing the bad boy.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very different to what I've normally been playing. Like, I mean, I've done the arrogant sort of cocky guy of, like, you know, Danny Zuko in Greece or whatever. But this guy knows exactly what he wants, and he will go out of his way to get it. And he doesn't care who he stamps on the way. So he's typical Wolf of Wall Street sort of boss man.
Yeah, they're all archetypal sort of characters, basically. I mean, I'm the grandmother. And
very active grandmother.
A very active grandmother.
Twerking,
which isn't...
Twerking away, she is.
Yeah, isn't really in the film. They've amalgamated my part, I think, for the musical. And he lives, the wedding singer lives in her basement because his parents have died. Now, you don't get that from the film, and he doesn't live with his grandmother. He goes and sees this old lady who's a bit gaga and puts meatballs in his hands. You know, it's a very odd... and I don't put meatballs in his hands. I would not do that. And when I read the actual script, Ray, I actually thought, I can't... This is nothing like the film. My part.
So you had a preconception.
So, yeah, I had. So I thought, I'll take the bull by the horns and just do it my way, and when the rest is history.
Shall we take a little look? Because it sounds brilliant.
Yeah, it's fun.
So when it's your wedding day and my music starts to play, I can guarantee that love will find you. If I told you
the words I've yet to say, words they matter, or would you simply turn and walk away?
'cause you're single, yes you are single, not a care in the world can bother you. Are single, yes you are single, you can do what you've always wanted to. It's all about the back rolls, legal tender, strip is screaming, cutthroat, firm expansion, regroup at the Playboy Mansion, blue chips, pink slips, foreign beers and ego trips, bank boards, getting antsy, jelly beans from Ron and Nancy. It's all about the green.
Wanna be somebody.
It's all about the green.
Wanna be somebody.
You're saying to take each snag in stride and just pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side.
Keep it cool, you won't start on.
I know you're not never too late to move that thing.
Saturday night in the city. Saturday night in the city. Saturday night in the city.
So rapping and acrobats, Ruth.
Oh yes,
You know, yeah.
yes. It is actually a double that does that. It's in the script, and obviously they couldn't find a 74-year-old to do that. You know, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't try it because obviously, you know, I think you could do yourself a real injury.
Even if you could do it, probably
Yeah.
night after night
Yeah,
as well. It's a
not
bit of
worth
a
it,
tall
love.
order,
Not
is it?
worth
No.
it.
No.
Somebody,
Short ones would never
this
cover it.
lovely young lady that does it, and it does bring the place down. It's very funny.
Yeah,
It's very
it does
funny.
look really, really good. And I see what you mean about your character in it as well.
Yeah, he's a typical, you know, greedy, arrogant sort of hothead. But yeah, no, it's great to play it. You know, it's mad to watch that because we filmed that right at the beginning. Everybody looks so
yeah.
young. We all look tired and battered now, don't we?
do.
I suppose you've all grown in your parts since then
Yes,
as well, and
yes.
together, because
Yeah.
it must be a little bit like sport in the fact when you first meet, some of you
Yes.
haven't met before.
That's right.
And then as
Yeah.
time goes on, you can read
You know
one
each
another,
other's,
can't you?
yes, and you know exactly what's going on, you know. No, it's great.
Had you met before on any other work?
No?
No, we just met on this, yeah. But I mean, it's been a long run, but you know, thoroughly enjoyed you know every single step really. And with the last few weeks left, we're all going for it, like you know, putting it out there, and we've had a great response.
Yeah.
'Cause it's toured all over the country, isn't it? And now, as you say, it must be nice to be.
It's nice
back
to be
in Swansea.
home.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the first time really in quite some time, you know, that I've worked from home. But no, it's really great. And of course, I know that theatre very, very well.
Yes.
No, it's lovely,
And
and
the
it's
Swansea
nice to
crowds
see.
must love
yes,
seeing you on
yes,
stage.
it's good fun. Yes, it was very, very good last night. You know. But I've really enjoyed the piece, and I've enjoyed the company of the young people, because, you know, they could have literally just thought, oh, God, you know, she's ancient, you know, and just leave her in a corner. But no, what they do, Ray comes to my dressing room and says, you know, what are you doing tonight? Are you all right? You know, blah, blah, blah. They've all been so supportive. Of myself and my husband, because my husband's come with me on the tour. He does all the driving. He's got a cab, and
So he knows
they
the
have been
dance routines
wonderful.
as well as the
Oh yes.
dancers, does
Oh,
he?
he's probably watched about over 80 odd shows, hasn't he?
Oh well, did that about 100 he's watched.
Yeah.
You know.
He knows the words.
Oh yeah, he knows it all.
He's the roadie.
Yeah,
He's
he's the roadie for everybody. But they've all been wonderful with me, the whole cast. They really, really have. You know, so they've made me feel part and parcel of it, which has been smashing.
lovely.
Isn't
Yes.
that nice?
Yeah, that
you
is
know,
lovely.
I won't have words said against young people, because if these, as a group, are indicative of young personage today,
They're a great
they're
example
all right
of
for
the,
me.
of the
They're
youth,
all
is
right
it?
for me.
Yeah.
They're
That must be
fab.
nice to hear, Ray.
Yeah, I didn't think I was young anymore. Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still in your 20s, aren't you, Jeff?
Yeah, 29, yeah. But, I mean, I'm edging closer to the 3-0, you know.
And you've been in the business for such a long time, maybe you don't feel as young as some 29-year-olds, maybe, who, you know...
Yeah, I mean, my first job was Brookside, wasn't it, when I was like 8, so, you know, I've been doing it quite a while now. But, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that all the same. You know, I wouldn't do anything else. I couldn't do anything else. You know, I love it. I love what I do. It's as we were talking before, it's better than sitting in an office behind a desk all day. And it's just when you feel like this, sometimes you're going out there and you're feeling a bit rough.
You'll feel better soon. And it's running to the 23rd, am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
The show.
Yeah,
And then
till
we've
Saturday.
only got two dates after that.
Yes.
And then it all winds up, you
And
know.
people can still get tickets and come along to...
Yes,
see,
yes.
There's still availability?
Yes, I
Yeah, the
think
Grand
so.
Theatre, come see us.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're drawing parallels with the likes of Grease, Dirty Dancing. It's a fun night out for anybody concerned. It's a little bit naughty at times, so don't probably bring your 3 or 4 year olds.
No, but it's 12 and upward, it really
12 and
is.
upwards.
Yeah, it's not a Disney show, but it's by far one of the funniest shows I've been involved in. So
Very funny.
Come along and enjoy
That's
it.
a great recommendation, and
Yeah.
it sounds brilliant
Yeah.
for anybody. They need to
Brilliantly
girls' night out.
choreographed. Yeah, it is.
Girls' night
very,
out.
very much
Yeah.
so. We've had one or two that have actually...
Thank you both. Well, we'll talk more after
Yeah,
the break,
okay.
and we'll see you all soon.
Right.
Welcome back to Bay TV. I'm Rachael Hopkins and we're still with Ruth Madoc and Ray Quinn, who are in Swansea Grand Theatre for The Wedding Singer, the musical. So we've taken a quick look and it looks so much fun. And you both sound that you've been enjoying it so much. You said that when you first read the character, Ruth, it didn't sort of jump out to you as the same as in the wedding film. So what have you done differently to make it your own?
Well, it really is very different to the film because there isn't a grandmother in the film.
Right.
She's the old lady there who's completely gaga in the film. He goes and sees and gives her singing lessons because he's a very nice boy, you see, the wedding singer. He's a very nice young man and he's got a lot of time for older people. Anyway, this particular character that I play, his gran in it, is quite feisty. So she's nothing to do with the character in the film. And yeah, she's quite... So I've tried to make her, you know, a very feisty, with-it grandmother, you know, because she buys them a bed in it, which you don't get in the film. We've got this bed. In the 1980s, we had these beds, water beds, and this is one that moves. Well, when it decides to move.
Yeah, it's a vibrating bed.
It's a vibrating bed, you see. Well, I can leave the rest to your own imagination.
And things always go wrong on stage.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's live, isn't it? So you can't, you know. So,
actually, this bed is very, very funny in it. So that's how she is. She's a woman.
She's very eccentric.
Quite eccentric. And then she says, you know, she's already been with 8 men before she married his grandfather, and all this business goes on.
And did you base her on anybody that you know?
No.
Just complete fabrication.
Yeah, complete fabrication, this one. So a lot of my characters I do. I mean, Gladys Pugh, for instance, was based on a lot of women I grew up with in the 60s in Llansamlet, you know.
Yes, because you brought
Yes,
up in
I was brought up in
Llansamlet,
Llansamlet.
very close to where we are today.
Yes.
I mean, you've travelled all over, haven't you?
Yes.
And then you've come back and settled, well, when you were at home, in Glynneath.
That's right,
And you talk very fondly of, you know, the people of Swansea and Glynneath as communities.
Yes, it's been very, very nice. And I've liked it very much, but I think Glynneath's a bit far out now, so we're going to have to think about being on a railway line, if nothing else, because it is 12 miles out. But the people of the valleys, I'm not a valleys girl, really, because obviously Swansea is not valleys, and they're very different people.
You.
Yes, well, sort of, I think.
Yeah, you get in there. And you've had such a long career, haven't you? How have you maintained the energy to keep up with all these different roles? Because you've done theatre, TV.
Well, I think the enthusiasm is because I just love it all.
Yeah.
And I get such a fillip from it when I go into a theatre, whatever I'm doing. You know, I'm in love with it all, and I still am. I came in when I was 16, and it's never left me.
And you trained at RADA.
Yes.
How did you get from Llansamlet to RADA? Because RADA, not that there's anything wrong with Llansamlet, but of course RADA, such great prestige. How did you decide that that was what you wanted to do? Because I wouldn't have imagined that many people of that time decided that
Nobody knew about RADA. They called it radar. Oh, she's going to radar. Fabulous. Nobody knew about it. I was very lucky because both my parents worked in England. My mother was a very good amateur and won the national. So did my grandmother.
So it was in the
so it was in my blood. But of course, in those days, if you came into the business, you were classed as a bit of a loose woman. So I was frowned upon.
I suppose all the singing and dancing.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the way of all flesh. Oh, no, she don't want to go that, you know. But anyway, when I got the scholarship, they decided, my grandmother and my aunt, who were the only ones left in Llansamlet, decided that they would be supportive. And my first job, actually, from RADA was not in a play. I'd done plays at RADA. I'd already done 2 theatres in the West End. By the time I left RADA, I was in a marvellous play called The Playboy of the Western World. Only a tiny little part, just 1 line. But in those days, you were allowed to do that sort of thing. So you got experience before you left an establishment.
That's so important.
It is. I think it's very important. And to watch other people in the business. Because
it's a tough business.
Oh, it's a very tough business. And anyway, but my first job was not in a drama like that. It was in the black and white minstrels down at the Victoria Palace, where I was doing twice daily, kicking my legs about and singing. Thank goodness my grandmother had taught me to sing. I don't know where the dancing came from. I just could do it, you know.
And talk about singing and dancing, Ray, you started very young, didn't you? Did you say you were 8 when you started in Brookside?
That was my first job. I did dance lessons and things like that from the age of 3, so I'd done it all my life, basically.
And you just fell in love with it straight away?
No, I hated it at first. I got to admit, I didn't want to go. My mum took me on a recommendation that I should go. And for the first sort of 3 months, 6 months plus, I was like, didn't want to go, because I was the only boy. Back then, you know, in school and stuff, it was like, if you didn't play football or rugby, you know.
I think there's more boys in dance and singing now, and then there's a big push. And
well,
there is.
Yes, I mean, I think this is where actually, Ray, you know, we had to have more males going into musical theatre, because the Americans, I mean, when I first started, West Side Story had to be cast from Americans. Because we didn't have enough that could actually do Jerome Robbins's choreography anyway. You know, so it's all altered. You know, it really has. It's great. It's great for our industry and for the people that now know it's not a stigma to be a male dancer.
Cool now, isn't it? Especially
very cool.
Strictly Come Dancing and the likes of. I mean, you've done Dancing on Ice, haven't you?
Yeah, Dance on Ice,
It's been difficult to do it. I've always wondered, because they have a lot of dancers on there, don't they? It must be very different, though, to do it on ice.
Oh, yeah, it's completely different. You're skating on essentially a knife, aren't you? So, a sharp knife. I loved it. It was great, good fun. I did the first year. I was very young the first year. I think it was like 19 or something like that. So, yeah, the first year was, like, courageous and a little bit sort of fearless. And I was really, like, I just wanted to win. And then the second year, it was, like, more pressure, because, obviously, people were saying that, you know, he's come back and he's, you know, he's for the Champion of Champions. I think it was in 2014.
Bring more out the bag.
Well, yeah, I knew I had to win. I just had to, in my head, I just wanted to do it. So I love a challenge, you know what I mean? It was not something I've done before, but I soaked it up, enjoyed it, and I met some fabulous people.
But you won it, didn't you?
Yeah, twice,
It's fabulous.
Good, and have you done any ice skating, dance on ice? Do you like to get out and show your stuff?
Oh gosh, no, I haven't been for ages. I do love it though. I miss it a lot. I really do. I made some fabulous friends on there for life. You know, it was the best part of the 4 years of my career. You know what I mean? You know, I toured with it 3 years on the run. I trained for, if all in all, you're looking at like 12 months, and then skating through the shows and through the touring. You know, it was a big, massive part of my life. Yeah, oh yeah, physically, yeah. I mean, your body goes like, it's amazing within weeks, you know. Because they say the ice preserves your skin, because the cold almost freezes your skin. So you look at all the skaters now, and they're all the women and all the lads are all still like beautifully porcelain dolls, because
you need to take up ice skating.
The ice is frozen their skin, so it doesn't wrinkle.
Are you sure it's just the ice?
Oh, of course. When you're going around the corner, you don't squint like you would if you were in the sun. You're more like sort of a concentration face. You know what I mean? I don't know. There is a theory in there somewhere, I know. But yeah, I know with it coming back. It's all very exciting for me, because not only have I been on the show, I'm a big fan of the show. So,
and such a diverse career as well. I mean, very controversial role in Brookside, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember getting the phone call to my mum saying, you know, can you come in? And because I was obviously a young youth, you know, I couldn't really make decisions on my own. I had my mum, my dad making decisions for me. So they had to get, you know, they had to get permission off them for me to be able to do this certain role. I got called in. Phil Redmond and one of the directors and one of the producers at the time said, look, we really want to have Ray as
and here you are.
story role.
I hope you feel better soon. Good luck with the show. It sounds fabulous. And everybody should get along to see it.
We've got 2 shows
big
today.
Thank you to all our guests today. Next on Bay TV, we have our afternoon matinee movie. Today, it's a crime drama, the 1963 Shadow of Fear. Enjoy and we'll see you soon.